Welcome to our show, Obsessed, where we talk about cryptids, mythology, folklore, and whatever else we're currently obsessed with.
I'm Caitlin Palmer.
And I'm Clay, and we're Obsessed.
So, Clay, how have you been? You've been up to anything good since our viewers last heard us?
No,
Me either.
I don't exist when the viewers aren't listening to us.
Same. We're like Schrodinger's couple. We only exist when we're not on the pod. Do we exist? It's
I'm somewhere
questionable.
between living and death.
Right. We are neither living nor dead, and that's kind of how I feel every day in vet med. Well, Clay, today I have picked a topic that has a little bit of everything. We've got some hauntings, we've got some real life tragedy, and we've got some big fish.
Big fish.
Big fish. Now, if there was ever an episode that deserves a trigger warning, it's this one. So, trigger warning, this episode does contain extreme violence, racism, and sexual assault. But it's important to talk about it and to break the generational curse of keeping quiet. I've only kind of hit the main things on this episode because we do try to kind of keep things lighthearted. But I don't feel like it's okay to talk about the hauntings and the scary, quote unquote fun stuff without discussing what happened and what caused it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'm a little upset that you're now doing an episode that has more trigger warnings than my Changeling episode.
It does. It does. Well, so if you haven't already guessed, which you probably already know because it's in the, it's in the title of the episode.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Lake Lanier.
Lanier?
Okay, so some people say Lanier, but people who live there say Lanier. I used to say Lanier too. It is correctly pronounced Lanier.
Well, people that live in Carrier call it Carrier and not Carrier as it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's true. It's spelled Carrier. Yeah, it's a French word, but you know what? We're bumpkins, and we don't call it that.
Right. We add like an extra syllable in there.
Yeah.
In Carrier.
Carrier. It's like diarrhea.
Yeah.
But enough of that, Clay. Let's dive on into Lake Lanier.
I don't like that you said dive in after we talked about diarrhea.
So, according to GwinnettCounty.com, the lake has 692 miles of shoreline and is 26 miles long, covering almost 47 miles of the original riverbed. At the dam, the lake is more than 200 feet deep. So Lake Lanier is a man-made lake, so this is not a natural thing. Bodies of water are already scary, and when you find out how this lake came to be, it's very upsetting. By the way, Lake Lanier is an allegedly cursed/haunted lake.
Now, the website you said Gwinnett County?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that the county that it is in? Is in
So
Gwinnett?
Lake Lanier actually, it's 4 or 5 different counties that it's in because Lake Lanier is huge.
Okay.
But we're going to talk mostly about Forsyth County in this
Okay.
episode.
All right, that sounds familiar.
We've been there. We have a family member who lives out there. So, according to the Chattahoochee River... How fun is it to say Chattahoochee? Say Chattahoochee for me.
Chattahoochee.
Yes. So anyway, according to them, in addition to being a popular getaway spot, the lake provides drinking water for about 5 million people. It also provides water and hydroelectric energy to Atlanta. So the lake was needed. It wasn't just a willy-nilly, let's build a lake for fishing. So
wait, people drink the lake water?
It's used for hydroelectric energy and provides
Well,
water
you said
to
that.
Atlanta.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, like provides drinking water. I read my sentence weird, and I read drinking, like drinking out on the lake, and then I made a weird pause, and it's who I am. Vasco's gonna have fun with this one. So let's talk about the name Lake Lanier. According to the Google, named for Georgia poet and musician Sidney Lanier. Sidney Lanier, he was a poet and he was a musician. He was also a Confederate soldier.
Yeah, check. I mean, this is Georgia we're talking about, so
It's true, and we say that with love, Georgia. I love Georgia. But in the 1950s, the United States Army Corps of Engineers built the Beaufort Dam, and that was for flood control, power generation, and then later recreation. It's the primary source of water for Gwinnett County and then surrounding areas, especially Atlanta. So in order to make this man-made lake, about 57,000 acres of land had to be cleared. That's a lot of land.
That's a lot of land.
Right. At the deepest part of Lake Lanier, it's about 258 feet. So it's very deep at the deepest parts.
Yeah.
So deep that divers, because we're going to find out about diving here in just a little bit, you have to worry about thing. You have to come up slowly. And yeah, it's rough, buddy. There have been over 600 lives lost that we know of that's documented. This is since the 1950s.
In the lake?
In the lake.
Is this from people diving or?
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, diving, drowning, boat accidents. It's a little bit of everything. And that's just what we know of. That's what's documented. There are at least 24 bodies still undiscovered in the lake. They're just out there somewhere.
They know they're in there.
We know they went underwater and never came back up.
Oh, well. They're probably still in the lake then.
Probably still in the lake. So Forsyth County, there's a lot of dark and terrible stuff that happened in Forsyth County. I wanted to throw in here, I've heard it pronounced Forsyth, but people who live there, it's Forsyth County. So if you say Forsyth, it's the same place.
I'm going to stick with Forsyth.
Yeah, Forsyth County. People who live there, like in documentaries and stuff, say Forsyth County.
Yeah.
But it was a part of the Trail of Tears.
Great.
The area where the town that was flooded, and Forsyth County, it was part of the Trail of Tears. So we're already off to a great start. This is a great place. You know what would be great? Let's flood it and put a lake. Now comes the dark and terribly racist part. For more info, please read Blood at the Root by Patrick Phillips. I don't want to say it's a good book because the subject matter is just so upsetting and terrible, but it's well written. So Oscarville was one of the towns that was flooded to make the lake. It was lots of family land. It was a thriving African American community. While the rest of the state struggled, Oscarville thrived. But that was until tragedy struck in 1912. May Crow, who was 19, possibly 18, I read 18 in one seemingly reputable source, but almost everywhere says she was 19. She was a white woman, and she was found in the woods near Oscarville. She had been allegedly sexually assaulted, and she was unconscious.
But not dead.
She was not dead.
No.
Now, while she didn't die right away, but she never did wake up. She never regained consciousness. And thus, she was never able to tell who attacked her. So, naturally, a white woman is essentially killed near a black community. Who are we going to blame?
The entire black community.
The entire black community. This is disgusting. So that night, mobs of night riders came out and tormented the black community. Everyone fled to the church, but the mob attacked the church. So It was that bad, yeah. So 3 black men, Rob Edwards, Ernest Knox, and Oscar Daniel, were all accused of the murder with absolutely zero evidence, by the way. They were just the closest people. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong color, and that's disgusting. One was put in jail with only one guard. So let's put this in perspective. And they say that there was political reasoning for this. One man, the entire county is angry, and they're going to put this poor little guy in the jail with one guard. What do you think happened?
I mean, I can guess.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. The mob easily overtook it. They murdered the man. I'm not going to go into the details of how he was killed. It was pretty rough. And then despite the banning of public hangings and lynchings years ago, it was done anyway. So the other men were executed, and they were supposed to put up a curtain, like a sheet, so that people couldn't see and spectate like we like to do for some reason. And the mob burned it down. And I'm sure they were like, hey, don't do that. I'm going to turn around for 5 minutes, and y'all better not do that. And this is terrible, but I'm kind of glazing over the really bad stuff, but I'm trying to hit the most important parts. That night, many families, they were chased out by the night riders. This was already a very, Forsyth County at the time, it was only about a 10% black population. Now, in 2024, it's about 4 to 5%.
Yeah, dang.
Yeah. It's bad. So most of the remaining people were chased off by night riders. They fled, and when they made it to the river, they were told to either swim or to drown. Many drowned. This night marked the beginning of the end for Oscarville, as it was burned down and soon flooded to make Lake Lanier. Again, this is a super simplistic version of the events. For more information, I would, again, strongly encourage you to read Blood at the Root by Patrick Phillips. So this is a classic case of Black people being coerced into admitting crimes they didn't commit.
Coerce is doing some legwork.
Was that the wrong word?
No, I mean, like, I think there is a better word for it, but, you know, the way history will remember it is as coerced.
Yeah, definitely coerced, and not the horrible, terrible truth of it, as we all know it to be. So, in the town of Oscarville, there were approximately 25 cemeteries in the towns. There were multiple towns, but Oscarville was the main one that was totally flooded to make the lake. Allegedly, all of the bodies from the cemeteries were moved, but there were many that were unmarked. So, were they really moved?
Probably
not. No. And there's people that say, oh, they absolutely would have moved them all. This is
they ran out they ran out an entire town.
They did.
They chased women and children literally into the river.
Yeah.
They didn't dig up any dead bodies.
No, especially not the unmarked ones. And there's already kind of bad juju about moving bodies and graves and desecrating resting places. So it's already kind of terrible. So they did the whole thing where they were like, I'm going to buy your land from you. But this is...
Right.
But they were lowballing these people. These were family farmlands. They had been there for generations. And they were like, I'll give you $30 an acre.
Right.
And
then followed up with, look, no one's going to buy this piece of shit except for me.
Right.
You're going to take my deal or you're going to get no money.
Right. And then most of the people ended up just being driven out anyway.
Yeah.
So it was just bad. So one person said, so far a lot of really great things have happened at Lake Lanier. There is a theory that bad attracts bad. So, like, you know that bad things happened there. So, of course, bad things are going to continue happening there. Kind of, you know, how we figure ourselves out. Most of the buildings and trees were burned down, but the tips of the trees were allowed to stay as long as they were 35 feet below the water. So when it was totally filled up, as long as the tip of the tree was 35 feet down, the tree could stay. So there's trees down there.
Yeah.
There's straight up trees.
Just below your boat.
Just below your boat. Freaking trees.
And houses.
So during droughts, you can actually see the tips of the trees and sometimes some of the tips of some of the buildings. And there's a racetrack. There was a racetrack down there, and during like a great drought, you could actually see the bleachers.
Oh, wow. It's
really cool. You should look it up. But the water is very, very murky. It's not like a clear, pretty... I mean, it is clear and pretty in some places, but for the most part, it's a pretty murky lake. Divers will openly tell you that they're very cautious of what they might find. Even Buck Buchanan. You know Buck Buchanan.
I am aware of Buck Buchanan.
Yeah, everyone knows Buck Buchanan. Because we love terrible shit.
Yeah.
So he's a seasoned diver he's kind of like a diving celebrity, honestly. But he was a seasoned diver, and even he had to say this about diving in Lake Lanier. You reach out into the dark, and you feel an arm or a leg, and it doesn't move. That's creepy. That's what he said.
That's creepy.
That's creepy. Many people say that they feel hands pulling them. So a lot of the drownings that happen in Lake Lanier occur near the shore. And a lot of these are they're strong swimmers. They're people that do this all the time. And people who survived say they feel like someone is grabbing them and pulling them under. Mm-hmm. Probably because it's freaking hell water under there. And nothing good ever happened there. So, let's just not. I have an aunt that lives out that way. She doesn't live like right around there, but we went to visit her and kind of did the whole tour of the Lake Lanier and everything, she sees faces when she goes out on the water. She sees faces in the water. And you and I, Clay and I, went to Lake Lanier, and we're going to talk about that some too, because it was hard to get to the water.
It was really hard to get down to the water.
I felt like if I go up to the water and touch it, maybe I'll have like a psychic spooky vision, and I didn't. But there was some really funny graffiti.
There was some funny graffiti.
It was pretty good. So lots of people visit Lake Lanier. It's huge. It's known as a party lake, but there's still a disproportionate amount of deaths. So it makes sense that millions of people go every year. You know, there's a lot of people. Of course, some of them are going to die. So since there's so many people, there's so many deaths, right?
And if people were partying on the lake, then
right.
accidents are more prone to happen.
Sure, and you expect that, but it's disproportionate. So it wasn't originally supposed to be a party lake. While it is the most popular lake in Georgia, but it's only 7% more popular than the second most popular lake, the lamer lake, Lake Allatoona, more like Lake Alalama.
That doesn't even remotely rhyme.
It doesn't. It does not. It sounded better in my head. But that one's also a man-made lake. But Lake Lanier is twice as deadly as a lake that's only 7% smaller than it. At one point, there were double the annual deaths at Lanier. And it's kind of insulting that it's a very rich vacation spot, parts of it. So many lives were ruined there, and now they're like Christmas lights.
Yeah. Decorating all the trees and the bridges and everything. And
we went, so it was for my birthday one year, but we stayed at this really, really nice, really, really fancy hotel, like the kind where you go in and they're wearing
like tuxedos and stuff,
yes, I couldn't think of the word, but they were wearing tuxedos, and like they had a gift shop, and I was like, oh, I would like to purchase a little something something. I got a $30 coffee cup, and then I go to pay for it, and it asks you to tip. And let's talk about that buffet, because it was very, very good. Everything was literally on like a silver platter.
I was worried about the buffet because I've never been at a buffet where somebody goes and like gets the food for you before.
It was strange. We were like, we cannot afford this.
Yeah, I was like, okay, we might need to look into how much this is going to be. We might have to duck out of the French double doors that were right next to us.
It is absolutely beautiful though. But again, probably not the most respectful use of that area. But it was yeah,
there's a literal like carnival down there at the base of the dam.
Yeah. It's this big. It has like all year round like sledding, and it's a whole
It's like a boardwalk. Didn't they have a Ferris wheel?
Yeah.
They had like rides and attractions and stuff that we did not go down there because it costs money just to go down there. Yeah,
to go see the Christmas lights, it's like $40 a person.
Right. Why?
I don't know.
Why?
So recent statistics, this is another reason why maybe not to go. But recent statistics say that about 8 to 12 people drown annually in the lake. So we're averaging like one a month.
Yeah.
Someone drowns
about once a month somebody's drowning.
Yeah, so it's not unusual. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, they drowned. Lake Lanier. Okay. So what is a haunted body of water without a Lady of the Lake legend? So now
she giving out free swords?
No, that'd be cool though.
Oh well.
I wish. A girl can dream. But so now we're gonna get into the more haunted stuff, and that's to me that's the attraction of it, because I love haunted stuff.
I say, you know what? I made a somewhat obscure reference, but I think our listeners would understand my referencing.
I got your reference.
Like King Arthur and everything.
Yeah,
so.
I got it. I liked it. I was proud of you. I was very proud of you. In 1958, so remember the lake was built in the early 50s, so this is shortly afterwards. But in 1958, atop the Jerry D. Jackson Bridge, two unsuspecting friends would meet a terrible fate. Delia Parker Young and Susie Roberts sped out of a gas station in their 1954 Ford without paying en route to a nearby town of Dawsonville. So these are two young girls, and they're just out wilding. Sowing their weird.
Out wilding.
They're just out wilding. They bought gas. They were probably laughing. Elvis is probably on the radio. They're having, they're just.
Well, they didn't buy gas.
They didn't. Well, you're right.
They did.
They definitely broke the law.
They did steal the gas.
But I think, who's never done something stupid? I mean, I've never done anything stupid ever, but most people have.
I'd steal some gas right now if I could get away with it.
I know, right? If you could download gas.
You wouldn't download a car, would you?
Oh, bitch, I would. So, but they would never make it home. They were thought to just be missing or possibly runaways. But soon sightings of an apparition of a beautiful young woman wearing a blue dress with no hands would be seen walking down the highway. She appeared lost and in search of something, but nobody could quite say what. It would become a tradition for high schoolers in the area to go in search of the Lady of the Lake. A year and a half later, a fisherman found a decomposing body of a woman. The decomp was in such poor state that the coroners couldn't identify the body. But all the people knew that's Delia Parker Young. She was missing her hands.
Oh.
Decades later, during renovations of the bridge, what would emerge but a 1954 Ford with the body of Susie Roberts still inside? Susie Roberts was able to be identified from dental records. At last, they were laid to rest, and an age-old mystery of their whereabouts was finally solved. But they say you can still see the Lady of the Lake.
So they drove off the bridge? Or?
Yeah, they drove off the bridge.
Nobody inspected damage to the bridge? I would assume it had railing.
So there were some skid marks. Like where they drove off but they were just kind of gone.
Okay, and just nobody followed up on that, I guess.
Well, I mean, they looked, but they thought they were just. I mean, it's hard to find stuff in the water.
Sure, but if you have skid marks leading directly to the water, you would think, I guess I'll just take a look here real quick. But a year and a half goes by, and they're like, meh.
Yeah, weird.
Meh.
But they also kind of thought they were just out wilding still.
I guess.
I mean, they were doing stuff.
They couldn't be bothered. They couldn't be asked to do the bare minimum.
No, I'm sure they did look, but, it was just kind of one of those mysteries. They just kind of disappeared.
Welcome to the first official ad spot of Obsessed with the Palmers. Today's episode is brought to you by the All Creatures podcast from VetCandy. All Creatures is an informative vet tool and source for continued education credits for veterinary professionals. The series follows Dr. G and Dr. Smalls, played by my wife and myself, on adventures solving mysteries, battling cryptids, and exploring veterinary medicine in an entertaining but educational radio play. If you're a veterinary professional or just like hearing me or Caitlin's voice, give it a listen. Check it out on myvetcandy.com.
But my favorite story about Lake Lanier is the legend of the floating raft. So it goes a little something like this. So there's a man, a shadow person, and he's on a flat raft, and he's got one of those poles, like in short water, how they'll have the pole that pulls you.
Right.
Lake Lanier is not short.
That's true.
Or it's not, it's
It would have to be like a 200-foot pole.
Exactly. And he's in one of these, and he's just, pulling himself along, and you see him, he yells something at you, but you don't really understand what he said, and then he jumps in the water, and then he disappears.
Oh.
Yeah, and then you look up and the raft is gone too. Oh, and he's got a lantern.
Well, I like that.
Yeah, it's spooky, isn't it? I love it, though.
I would assume that he was coming for me, and that's spooky.
Yeah. To me, something about, jumping in the water and just, that's it. It's like, ugh. Yeah. Especially here, because it's no good. There's another mystery associated with Lake Lanier. This is the story of Kelly Nash. He was 25 years old, and he just kind of left his house in the middle of the night and never returned. He lived near Lake Lanier. He left his keys, his ID, everything. His body later washed up at Lake Lanier. He was found about a month later from when he originally just went missing, but it was not ruled a suicide. Kelly Nash had a gunshot wound, but the cause of death was drowning. His family even hired a PI, which is a private investigator, and they couldn't find anything unusual or criminal in his past and his background. We still don't know exactly what happened, but there's rumors that it could be linked to the smiley face killer, but we don't know. What's weird about this story, Clay, is he was sick. And he was in the living room playing video games or, whatever, not to wake up his girlfriend. And he got up and he just went outside. The garage was open. He just left. He just left.
Yeah, I mean, you say you left everything behind.
Right. So there's theories that maybe he heard something and he went to go see what it was and maybe kind of met with something bad. But we don't know. Either way, even if he did kill himself, he did it at Lake Lanier. Somehow his body was in the lake. So that's pretty terrible. In 2012, 16-year-old Hannah Truelove, who lived with her mother and in the Lake Lanier Club apartments, she was murdered in the woods near the lake. And this case still remains unsolved. And hers, there's a lot of, it's really interesting, and I really hate unsolved mysteries. It gives me anxiety, and it makes me angry because I want to know, and I want to know now. Like, we're waiting on a new season for, 2 shows to come out right now, and I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Hurry the hell up. I need to not think about my own life, okay? Thanks. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So if everyone could just solve all the crimes real fast.
So if everyone could just solve everything real quick, okay? Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I was short with you earlier. But anyway, so Hannah Truelove, they think maybe she was being stalked. This is a case that's recent enough that social media, her social media accounts exist. And she would put kind of angsty things like, oh, I can't trust anybody, and I think I have a stalker. And so there might have really been a stalker, and she met with some kind of terrible fate. We just don't know. And again, if everybody could just get on that'd be cool. Water really messes up a crime scene, if you didn't already know. And murky water makes searching and exploring very difficult. One time, a man was out fishing, and he saw something shiny, and it was a submerged van.
Oh.
Yeah, and they found a whole ass man inside of it.
I guess, was he okay?
Yeah, he was fine.
Okay.
He was fine. He definitely hadn't been dead for a long time.
Right.
But they were able to identify him, and he had just been missing. Like, he was just a missing person, and that's so sad.
Just drove into the lake.
He was just driving his little silver van into the lake, and then he was totally fine. Didn't die. He died. So this is the word that describes this whole experience is submechanophobia, which is the fear of submerged man-made objects. So that's like when you're swimming and there's like a sunken ship and you're just like on top of it. It's like that. You're not supposed to be on top. Like trees should not be under me unless I'm flying. Trees should not be under me. Houses typically are not under me.
Yeah, usually
cemeteries. Well, I guess they're kind of under you.
Usually, you don't look out and see, or you don't look out and are unable to see an entire forest.
Yeah,
that's just right there in front of you.
I'm not a fan of that, but I have that call to the abyss though. Like,
what do you think's the creepiest man-made object you can find underwater?
A doll.
Just a doll? That feels like it wouldn't be that bad. I mean, anybody could drop a doll in there.
No, like an old porcelain doll that's like...
Okay, somebody dropped a doll a really long time ago. That's not creepy to me.
That's a little creepy.
That's a little creepy?
What do you think the scariest thing someone could drop down there would be?
I think the scariest thing that I could find, like man-made object underwater while diving, is probably just a set of stairs that go nowhere.
Ooh, stairs that go nowhere are creepy. And I bet there's some down there.
There's probably some down there.
Yeah.
There's almost certainly, like, chimneys still down there.
There are still chimneys, and there's wells down there, too.
Oh, no. Ooh, no.
Yeah.
Actually, I lied. I take it back. The creepiest man-made object I could find underwater is a well.
Yeah. It just goes deeper somehow.
It would be creepier if the well was covered, though.
I don't know. I like it being open because then it's like, what if something got out of there? And then there's a cryptid in the lake. There's kind of cryptids in the lake, and we're going to talk about that too.
Oh, okay.
Not really. They're just really big fish.
Oh, okay.
But parts of Lake Lanier are...
What is a cryptid if not a really big fish?
I mean, fair. Fair. So parts of Lake Lanier are used for scuba dive training, but there's a waiver, like a pretty significant waiver you have to sign, which I imagine any kind of scuba diving expedition
Yeah,
is going
you
to be
probably got a waiver.
But, it's probably standard practice, but like Lake Lanier. Another danger that divers face is staph. There is a strain of staph that is specific to Lake Lanier.
Oh, it's got its very own disease.
It's got its very own infection because of all the silt and the debris and everything. Usher, we know Usher, we know Usher, yeah?
Do we?
Yeah! yeah. That song's so good. His ex-wife, Tamika Foster, wanted to have the lake drained after her son died after being hit by a jet ski in 2012.
Damn.
She collected more than 3,000 signatures for an online petition to drain, clean, and restore. Kyle Glover was innocently floating in a tube when a family friend, Jeffrey Hubbard, ran into him on his jet ski. So it just sucks that happened at Lake Lanier. It sucks that happened at all.
Yeah.
But especially at Lake Lanier, and that's just really, really sad. And that's really sad for his mom, too. I listened to an interview with her, and it was really sad. There's big-ass catfish down there. They're like the size of a Volkswagen. They didn't say what kind of Volkswagen, but catfish shouldn't be as big as a vehicle. I shouldn't be able to go to Target in a catfish. You know what I'm saying?
Catfish will get pretty big if allowed to do so.
Yes. And these guys are known to be 5 to 7 feet long, and they're known to eat dogs.
Yeah, no, they will eat anything
Literally anything
that can pass through their mouth. A catfish's number one predator is a larger catfish.
It's true. And we eat some catfish, don't we?
I mean, they're good. Yeah,
they're delicious. One time there was a truck, and this is kind of a legend, but I choose to believe it. There was a truck that was carrying chickens, and it crashed. And then when divers were down there trying to, check everything, the the catfish were coming up and eating the chickens whole, like in a feeding frenzy.
No, I can believe that too.
Yeah.
Because
there's legends of catfish. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because catfish are like the chickens of the sea. People talk about
what is a catfish if not
a chicken of the sea? And chickens are just as like terrible a creature as a catfish are. They are somehow never satiated. They're always hungry, and they will kill anything they can and eat it. Wow. I have a few distinct memories of owning chickens as a child. One of them is one of those big cow ants, which is a wingless hornet, crawling across the chicken coop, which was bare dirt in the middle. And all of the chickens just flocked around it and were trying their damnedest to kill these things. But cow ants are notoriously indestructible. I watched my uncle one time smash one with a hammer and light it on fire, and he still couldn't kill the son of a bitch.
Really?
Yeah, they are the meanest creatures on this planet. But
that gives me hope for Panzer, our dog.
Because he's an asshole.
He's such a butt. He'll be okay.
Even if I crush him with a hammer?
No, we better not.
But that, and then another time when I witnessed a single blade of grass break through the ground, sort of like it had been growing, and then the tension sort of got enough, and the blade of grass popped up. And when it did that, every chicken in the pen like ran over to it and destroyed it. And I was like, these creatures exist only to destroy.
They do. My sister-in-law has chickens, and whenever I go take care of them, I like to pick like clovers and grass and stuff and just hold it to them through the fence just because.
They'll attack it like they're starving to death.
Yeah, they do.
I think it's not even a hunger thing. I think they're just evil.
Well, they're little baby raptors.
Yeah, they are like little baby raptors. Anyway, a catfish is like that, but underwater.
Yeah. And they have been known to eat dogs. And there's legends, like in cartoons when somebody hooks a big fish and the fish like pulls them around on their boat.
Right.
There's legends of that happening. I don't think that, but it's fine. Whatever.
I mean, maybe pull somebody off the boat.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know about move the whole boat though.
Right, because how would you stay in the boat?
You would have to equally be strong enough to pull the entire boat as well.
Yeah,
because you would be the fulcrum on which.
Ooh, fulcrum. That's a good word.
It's the wrong word though.
Say it again.
The linchpin by which the boat would be pulled.
Yeah, I hate that. But maybe the catfish are responsible for some of the missing bodies. Did they
maybe.
Did they eat them? They probably ate them, didn't they?
They might have ate them.
They definitely did. There's lots of videos of diving in Lake Lanier on YouTube, and they're a little frustrating because it is so murky. There's just so much silt.
Yeah, you can't see anything.
It's not like you go down and you're like, oh, this is a town that's so cool. It's like you see debris and rubble and little tiny fish.
But you know what's spooky about that too, though? Is that something could be an arm's length away from you and you wouldn't see it.
Yes. Yeah, underwater.
You could be surrounded, in fact.
Deep, dark water. It scares me, but I'm drawn to it. It's like this call of the abyss. It's so creepy. So, Clay, would you swim in Lake Lanier?
No.
Why not?
I mean, that's pretty creepy.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd swim in it.
It was creepy enough, even just being down by the water, because, again, it was murky enough that you really couldn't see very far in.
No, you couldn't.
You could sort of, like, trace where the rocks are under the water until they get far enough that you can no longer make out those shapes.
Right.
Like I said, anything could be on there. I don't know.
Probably somebody waiting to grab you and pull you in.
Right, yeah. And I'm not into that.
I'm not into that either, but I would like to watch it in a movie.
Just wouldn't want to be part of it.
Yeah, no, I just want to be a fly on the wall. And there's probably angry
Actively
spirits down there.
Well, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty upset about the whole thing. I might drown some people too.
Yeah.
But that's why I wouldn't go in the water.
Yeah, it's kind of disrespectful to party there.
The partying feels wrong.
It does.
The partying feels wrong. We didn't do any partying when we went.
No, we just ate.
Right, and then we wanted to see the lake. But everywhere that you went, it was raised high above the surface of the lake.
Right. Now, and this was just a small part of the lake that we went to. It's huge. I mean, there's places I'm sure it's very easy to get to the water. And
right, like places to dock your boats, unload them and all that kind of thing. But we just wanted to go to the edge of the water, and we drove for a little while and just couldn't find any place where you could.
Right. We finally found this little, park area. There were these big, craggy stones, actually.
Yeah, we had to literally scale down rocks to get down there.
It was really cool, though. I didn't have my psychic vision, but it was still fun. Clay, do you have any closing thoughts on Lake Lanier or haunted lakes?
Haunted lakes in general, I'm not a fan. I think lakes are spooky enough without being haunted. So
right?
If haunted lakes could maybe just chill a little bit, that'd be great. Thoughts on Lake Lanier? I guess there's no way to board up an entire lake, is there? You can't just it's not like a well where you can put a lid on that. You can't just do that with a whole lake that spans 4 counties. This is a problem that some other people caused, so that's up to them to figure out.
In the meantime, if you go to Lake Lanier, just please be careful. Maybe say a little prayer.
Don't pee in the water.
Well, don't pee in the water.
There are so many things that are peeing in that water. They don't need you to pee in it.
That's where the staff came from. It's from your pee. Stop going pee-pee in the water. How likely is Lake Lanier to be a cryptid?
The lake itself?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Maybe
and also
it's an SCP.
Also not one of our questions.
It's not. I meant to say how likely is it to be an alien. But I committed to it.
I don't think the lake itself is a cryptid.
Some of them catfish might be cryptids.
Yeah, maybe. Some very real cryptids, i.e. big-ass catfish.
Big-ass catfish.
Do I think the lake is actually haunted?
Yes.
probably too much terrible shit has happened there for it to not be haunted.
Shit. And I didn't go into details because we try to kind of keep things lighthearted and we tend to kind of make fun of things, and that's not something that's okay to make fun of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know the details, but I could probably just toss out burned alive and I probably wouldn't be wrong.
You wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah, no, it's in 1912. I say that like it wouldn't still happen today.
There's parts.
There's places in Mississippi. I think the last public lynching was only like 40 years ago or something.
That's horrible.
I think my parents were alive when the last lynching in the last recognized lynching in, because lynchings continue.
They do, and that's
because racism continues.
Southern United States, we got to do better. We've got to do better. It's not okay.
But they did run out an entire town and killed, I don't know how many people.
Countless.
I mean, they definitely did some killing. Yeah, it's haunted.
It's definitely haunted, and if anywhere deserves to be haunted, I feel like Lake Lanier deserves to be haunted. So anyway, that is the horrible and tragic story of Lake Lanier.
Also, Lake Lanier is an alien. To answer your previous question.
Oh, good.
It is in fact an alien. There's a 10. There's a 10 chance that it's an alien.
Yeah, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 20, 10 out of what? What's the scale? What's our reference?
10 out of 1.
Oh, wow.
It's absolutely an alien.
Overkill alien. Well, next week we'll talk about something a little more fun, but Lake Lanier is super cool, super haunted. Definitely look into it. Don't swim in it. Love you. Bye.
Please don't swim in it.